Whether you're preparing for sleep, seeking a moment of calm during a hectic day, or simply looking to relax, welcome to Eerie Embers. Don't forget to like, subscribe, also share some stories from your part of the world. Hit the lights, get comfy, and let's begin the journey. I'm a 32-year-old guy who works for the Forest Service. And what I'm about to share happened to me this past fall when I was stationed alone at Fire Tower Ridge in northern Montana. Maybe writing it down will help me sleep better. I signed up for a 3-month solo fire lookout assignment, my first time doing a full rotation alone. I know how that sounds. Being isolated for weeks at a time in a rickety tower with no one but trees and squirrels. Most people would go stir crazy. But honestly, I was looking forward to the solitude. I needed it. Had just come out of a rough breakup, was burned out at work, and the idea of peace, quiet, and books sounded like therapy. Fire Tower Ridge is about 12 miles off the nearest road, accessible only by hiking or airlift. I got dropped off by chopper in early September with 2 months' worth of food, supplies, and a satellite radio for check-ins. The tower itself was ancient, built in the 1940s, restored in the early 2000s. No plumbing, but a clean cot, a propane stove, and 360-degree views of dense, untouched forest. Heaven. For the first few weeks, everything was smooth. Mornings were crisp. I'd do my rounds with binoculars, log any signs of smoke or lightning strikes, make notes on the weather, and radio in around noon. Afternoons were for reading, chopping wood, or napping. Nights were long and dark, but I didn't mind. Then I started noticing him. It was around the 3rd week, I think, late September. Cold had started creeping in. I woke up early, just before dawn, to piss off the edge of the deck. I always stood on the east-facing side to catch the sunrise. But this time, as the first orange light spilled across the treetops, I saw a shape, far off, maybe 200 feet into the trees. A person. At first, I thought it was a trick of the light or my tired eyes. But when I grabbed my binoculars, I saw it clearly. A man, tall, standing dead still at the tree line, wearing something white. Could have been a coat or robe, I couldn't tell. But what struck me was how still he was. No shifting, no swaying, just standing, facing the tower. I stared for 10 minutes. He didn't move. Not a step. I even waved. Nothing. I figured maybe it was a hiker or someone camping off-grid. Weird, but not impossible. Next morning, same thing. Same man, same spot, same white clothing. This happened every morning for the next week. Always there at dawn. Always gone by full daylight. And no trail, no footprints. I checked with binoculars, nothing disturbed. No gear, no movement. Just standing, watching. I reported it to HQ after 3 days, just in case. They told me it was probably a local hunter, maybe a weird survivalist. They offered to do a flyover if I was really concerned, but I said no. I didn't want to overreact. Besides, a part of me was more curious than scared. Until he moved. It was the 11th morning. I woke up 5:50 a.m. Opened the east window, expecting to see that pale figure in the same damn spot. But he was closer. Not by a lot. Maybe 20 feet closer than the day before. Still in the trees, still facing me. But it wasn't my imagination. I checked the rocks and stumps around him. He'd changed position. I didn't report it. Something in me felt stupidly superstitious. Like if I acknowledged it out loud, it'd make it worse. But the next day, he was closer again. And again the next day. Every morning, 20 feet closer. No tracks, no sound, just silently creeping forward overnight, and still no movement during the day. If I blinked or looked away when I looked back, he was always in the same pose. By the 6th day of that pattern, he was at the base of the clearing. I stayed up all night, sat by the window with my flashlight, coffee, and a loaded flare gun. Yeah, I didn't have real weapons, but at that point, I'd take anything. I watched the tree line until my eyes burned. Nothing. I must have dozed off just before dawn, because when I opened my eyes, he was at the bottom of the stairs. Not in the woods, not at the clearing, standing at the base of the tower, looking straight up at me. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. He was tall, easily 6'5", pale skin, or maybe that was the morning frost. No face I could make out, just a blank expression. White clothing, not robes, more like an old-fashioned wool suit. Immaculate. No dirt, no wear. He didn't climb. He didn't speak. Just stood there, tilting his head slightly, like an owl. I backed away from the window, locked the hatch, radioed HQ, told them I was requesting immediate evac due to trespasser danger. No answer, not even static. I stayed locked in the tower for 14 straight hours. When I finally looked again, he was gone. I slept with a hatchet next to my bed for the rest of the assignment. The figure didn't come back, but when the chopper came to pick me up 2 weeks later, I asked the pilot to circle the ridge once, just to check. He agreed reluctantly as we banked around the toe. There was a white shape, deep in the woods, barely visible through the trees. Still, watching exactly where he first appeared, like he'd reset. I don't know what he was. A ghost, a demon, something older. I didn't report it. I didn't talk about it until now. But last night, I woke up in my new apartment, far from the woods, to a knock at the door. Soft, rhythmic, and I swear on everything. When I looked through the peephole, there was a man in white standing at the bottom of the steps. I'm not a horror writer, and I'm not the superstitious type. My name's Jessie. I'm 41, and I work as a backcountry ranger in the Pacific Northwest. I spend most of my time patrolling trails, checking campsites, clearing fallen trees, basic stuff. It's a solitary job, but that's exactly why I love it. Nature doesn't talk back. It doesn't lie. Usually, there's a stretch of trail in my territory called Mercer's Loop. It's not well known, more of a local secret for seasoned hikers who want peace and quiet. I've walked that loop once a week for the last 5 years, minimum. I know it better than I know my own apartment. Every dip, every stump, every boulder with moss growing in the same damn pattern. At the halfway point is a small clearing. A patch of soft grass about 20 feet across, surrounded by firs and hemlocks. It's flat, quiet, and always gave me a weird sense of calm. The kind of spot you stand in and think, if magic exists, it lives here. Well, maybe I was right. This happened last Thursday. I'd been out doing a standard perimeter check, was about to radio in and call it a day. Late afternoon, low golden sun, cool air, and the usual quiet. I was walking Mercer's Loop like I always do, and when I came to the clearing, there was a tree in the middle of it, a massive, twisted thing, like a lightning-struck oak had been tangled with something older. Gnarled branches, gray-black bark, easily 15 feet tall, the kind of tree you'd see in a Tim Burton movie. Dead-looking, but somehow not, like it was holding its breath. But the thing is, I swear on everything I've got in me, it was not there the week before, or any of the hundreds of times I've walked that loop. I just stood there, mouth open like an idiot. Thought maybe I was losing it. Maybe I just never noticed it somehow. Except that clearing was open. Always has been. That's why it's called the clearing. No stumps, no shade, definitely no towering horror tree. So I did what anyone would do. I walked up to it. The ground around the base was untouched. Not a single root poking up. No disturbed soil, no trench, no torn up grass. It was like it had grown upward from nowhere without ever touching the dirt, or like it had always been there, and the world had just caught up to it. I circled it once, didn't touch it. Something about the bark made my stomach churn, like it was pulsing or breathing beneath the surface. Then I saw the carving, about shoulder height, on the north-facing side of the trunk. Fresh. The bark was still curling inward, like it had just been cut. Clean lines. 3 letters, JRK, my initials, and right below that, 5/15/25. That was tomorrow's date. I'm not someone who startles easily. I've seen bears up close. Had to pull a guy out of a ravine after he tripped on acid and thought he could fly. I've slept in the snow with wolves howling less than a mile away. But that moment, that tree, I felt something deep in my gut clench primal animal fear. Like my DNA remembered something I didn't. Like I was being warned. I took a few photos with my phone, which I later discovered had all come out completely black, just blank screens, and hiked the hell out of there. Didn't even finish the loop. Back at the ranger station, I tried to play it cool. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't radio it in. Just sat at my desk with the radio off, staring at the photos that weren't photos. That night, I didn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the tree, and I dreamed. Vivid, hallucinatory stuff. Standing in the clearing in pitch black darkness, the tree towering above me, its branches twitching like spider legs. Whispers in the leaves, except there was no wind. Something behind me breathing. And when I turned to run, I couldn't move. The last thing I saw in the dream was my own hand holding a knife, carving my initials into the bark. I woke up gasping. 3:07 a.m. My apartment was freezing. Friday morning, the day on the tree, I almost called out sick. Almost. But something pulled me back out there. Like I had to know if it was still real. Maybe some idiot was playing a prank. Maybe it was a bizarre art installation or some ritualistic thing. So I went, and the tree was still there, exactly the same. Only this time, there was something new. A second carving, same spot, right beneath the initials and the date. It was small, rushed, and messier than the first, but I could make it out. Help ME, and below that, in smaller letters, like they'd been scratched with a shaking hand. Still here. I turned and ran. I haven't been back since. But here's the worst part. This morning, I woke up with dirt under my fingernails. My boots, still by the front door, were caked in dried mud. And there was a thin, straight cut on my palm, like I'd held a knife too tight. Tomorrow is May 15th. I don't know what's going to happen, but if I don't post again, check the tree, check what's carved next. I used to work as a night dispatcher at a ranger station in Colorado. It's a boring job 99% of the time. You sit in a wooden shack that smells like pine and mildew. Monitor the radio, log weather changes, answer calls from nearby outposts, and keep the coffee pot full enough to prevent a mutiny. Simple work. I liked it until last October. until channel 7. Let me back up a second. Our radios have 6 channels. That's it. Channel 1 is for general check-ins, 2 and 3 for weather and emergency use. 4 through 6 are for field rangers on different patrol routes. Standard stuff. There is no channel 7. Literally, the knob on our Kenwoods stops at 6. It doesn't even click past it. Until the night it did. This happened on my 3rd night shift in a row. I remember it clearly because it was bitter cold, and I'd been alone for hours. Our station is up near the tree line, and after 9 p.m., it gets quiet. No wind, no animals, just the hum of the generator and the occasional static from a ranger checking in. That night, around 1:13 a.m., I remember the time because I just logged a routine weather report. The static picked up sharply, like a sudden burst, loud enough to make me flinch. Then I heard a voice. Not one of our guys. Help me, someone, please. Is anyone? Crackling static. Channel 7, God, it's here. I froze, then looked down at the radio. The channel dial was pointing to 7. That shouldn't have been possible. It doesn't go past 6. The dial is physically limited, but there it was. A shaky red LED display reading channel 7. I grabbed the mic. Who is this? You're on an unassigned frequency. Identify yourself. Silence. Then the voice came back. Whispering rushed. Too late, you're next. Then nothing, dead air. No static, no hiss, just complete, chilling silence. The kind of silence that has a weight to it. I turned the knob back to channel 1. The display didn't change. Still channel 7. I shut the radio off, turned it back on. It booted directly to channel 7. I unplugged it, plugged it back in. Same thing. By now, I'm sweating even though it's barely 30 degrees outside. I tried the backup radio in the emergency case. Fired it up. Channel 7. I flipped open the station's old paper logbook and scrawled down everything that just happened. It was the only thing that made me feel even remotely in control, writing it down. Then the second radio turned itself off. Swear to God, I wasn't even touching it. And that's when I heard footsteps, heavy, deliberate, outside the station. Not pacing, not wandering, approaching. There's no one scheduled to be on site with me at night. Closest ranger outpost is 5 miles out, and no one radio's in. No headlights, no snow crunch, just footsteps right up to the door. I moved to the window, slow as I could, heart pounding in my ears. Pulled the curtain aside just enough to peek. Nothing, no one, but the footsteps stopped right at the threshold. Then the knob turned. Once, twice, like someone testing it. The door was locked, standard procedure during overnights. But I still grabbed the emergency flare gun and just stood there, shaking, waiting for something to slam into the door. But it never did. Instead, the radio buzzed back to life behind me. "Let us in." "Ussie." I bolted out the back, took the maintenance trail down the ridge, nearly ate it half a dozen times in the snow. Didn't stop running until I hit the lower ranger station and pounded on the door like a lunatic. They thought I was drunk or high. I wasn't. I didn't sleep. Next morning, we hiked back up to my post. The main radio, fried, wouldn't power on. The backup, missing. Door was still locked. No footprints. Not even mine from the night before. Nothing. But the weirdest part. My written log entry, the one I scribbled down in panic, was still there, except the ink had bled all the way down the page, like it had gotten wet, but everything else was dry. I got pulled from the night shift rotation after that. Transferred out of that post a few weeks later. I told my supervisor something vague: equipment malfunction, exhaustion, maybe mild hypothermia. I couldn't bring myself to say, "Hey, a radio demon told me I was next. But here's why I'm posting now." I hadn't thought about Channel 7 in months. I forced myself not to. But 2 nights ago, I pulled my old gear bag out of the closet. Haven't touched it since I left the job. Inside, buried under my thermal socks and compass, was the backup radio, the one that vanished. It was turned on. The display, Channel 7, and the speaker, still waiting. We cover a pretty wide area of rough backcountry. Mountains, ravines, old-growth forest, and spots nobody's walked in years. Most of it's routine work, weather station checks, trail clearing, the occasional rescue call when someone ignores a trail closure. Then there's the shed. Every ranger who's been here more than a year knows about it. It's not on any current maps. Old structure, maybe 12 by 12 feet, tucked off a disused trail near the north slope. Looks like it was built back in the 60s or earlier. We just call it the Sector 9 shed. We're not supposed to use it. Officially, it's condemned due to structural instability. But that's BS. The real reason no one wants to go near it. I didn't know the full story until my incident, but the shed's got a reputation. Radios don't work near it. Wildlife won't go near it either. Hell, even the wind feels wrong when you're within 100 feet of the place. Anyway, 6 months back, I pulled a night shift solo. My partner had called out sick, and I was filling in on backcountry patrol. Just a routine sweep of fire watch towers and trail cams. Nothing special. I was almost done for the night when I saw it. A thin trail of black, something crossing the old North Trail. It looked like oil at first, thick, glossy. But when I stepped closer with my flashlight, I noticed it wasn't reflecting right. Too dark. It swallowed the light, like tar but wetter. And it had a smell, like rot and something chemical. The trail led off into the trees, in the direction of the old shed. Now, I'm not a brave guy. I've got just enough spine to get through SAR calls and keep calm when someone's bleeding out. But this set every instinct on fire. Still, duty is duty. I radioed in, got static, tried my sat phone, dead. And like a dumbass in every horror movie ever, I followed the trail. Took about 10 minutes of bushwhacking to reach the clearing. I hadn't seen the shed in over a year, and something about it felt worse now, like it was slouching. The wood looked warped and damp, almost alive. The metal roof was rusted through in spots, like something had clawed at it. The door was open. We always keep it chained shut. Always. The trail of black liquid led right up to it and inside. I shined my light toward the doorway and saw the first claw mark. Deep, long, carved into the wood like someone had taken a bare claw to it, except the spacing between the slashes was off. Too wide, too purposeful. I should have walked away. I tried to walk away, but then I heard it. Breathing. Slow, deep, wet. Something was in there. Something alive. I stepped closer to the door, against every screaming nerve in my body, and leaned in just enough to shine my light into the corner. What I saw didn't make sense. It looked like a pile of meat. No other way to say it. A glistening, heaving mound of flesh, dark, slick, pulsing like it was breathing through 100 open wounds. There were limbs, but not arranged right. Too many joints. No visible eyes, but I felt it look at me. Then it shifted. I didn't see it move. 1 second it was in the corner, the next, it was closer. Still half hidden in shadow, but definitely not in the same place. I stepped back. It stood up. Not fast, not slow, just deliberate. It was tall. Taller than me by a foot at least. Humanoid-ish. Long arms. Too long. The skin hung loose, like it was wearing a person's suit 3 sizes too big. And the smell, God, it hit me like a physical wave. Like roadkill soaked in gasoline and mold. Then it spoke. Not with a voice, with mine. It said, "Help me." But it said it exactly how I'd said it on a rescue call a few months back. Word for word. Same tone. Same panic. I froze. Then it said, "You found me." In my voice. From yesterday. I'd said that exact phrase during a trail cam inspection. No one else was around. I ran. Didn't even think. Just bolted through the woods like a lunatic, scraped my face on a branch, nearly ate it down a slope. It didn't chase me. I don't think it needed to. Back at base, I didn't tell anyone. How do you explain that? Hey, there's a meat monster mimicking our voices in an old shed. But here's the part that still messes me up. 2 days later, a new ranger temp guy went missing near Sector 9. They found his boot prints heading toward the shed. Never found the guy, but they did find his sat phone near the tree line, still recording. On the audio, you can hear him walking, breathing, calling out. Then, clear as day, a voice responds. Hey, I'm over here. In my voice. I quit the job last month. Couldn't take it anymore. They're still out there doing patrols like nothing's wrong. But the shed's still standing. Still waiting. I don't know what's in it or where it came from. But I know this. It listens. I'm a wildlife surveyor for the state, mostly focused on marmot populations and other alpine critters in high elevations. I know, weird job. Lots of camping, trail cams, and making sure our fat rodents aren't vanishing. I've been doing this for almost a decade, and nothing's ever gotten to me like what happened last week. I was out on a solo overnight in one of the more remote parts of our district. Won't say the exact location because I still have to work here, but think high alpine meadows, lots of deadfall, and no cell service for at least 15 miles in any direction. No humans for miles either. The plan was to check 3 trail cams along a ridgeline and camp overnight before heading back. All good. Weather was clear. Set up my one-person tent off a logging road that hadn't seen a truck in probably a year. Ate dinner around dusk. I was just finishing up notes on activity around the cams. Some good shots of a bobcat. Nothing unusual when I heard it. A scream. Loud, high-pitched, guttural. If you've ever heard a rabbit or a fox in distress, you know it's an awful sound. It was like that, but louder, and it kept going. Like something was being torn apart alive. My first thought was maybe a coyote got hold of a deer or a raccoon. Predators kill prey all the time. Nature's brutal, but it has its rhythms. But this went on for a solid 20 seconds. Not normal. Too long. And then silence. Not nothing in earshot silence. I mean dead silence. Like the whole forest exhaled and forgot to breathe again. No wind through the pines. No bugs. No rustling. I couldn't even hear my own breathing for a second. Like my ears were ringing from the sudden stillness. That was when the crunching started. I wish I could describe the sound better. Imagine the wet pop of cartilage, something big chewing through bone slowly, deliberately, like it wasn't in a hurry. I've heard wolves take down elk. I've watched mountain lions feed. This wasn't that. It was almost methodical. my headlamp was off. I was sitting completely still under a moonless sky, and whatever it was, it sounded close. Maybe 100 feet away. I should have gotten in my tent, zipped it shut, hoped for morning. But curiosity got the better of me. I pulled out my binoculars, the kind with low light capability, and slowly scanned the tree line in the direction of the noise. That's when I saw it. Not the animal, not clearly, but eyes. Low to the ground, too far apart, not reflecting like a deer or bear's eyes do. Just dark, matte, unblinking. I counted 6. They stared toward me for what felt like a full minute. Then, one by one, they blinked out. I didn't sleep. Just sat there with my hand on my bear spray and my head on a swivel until the sun came up. No more sounds, no movement, nothing. At dawn, I crept over to where I thought the noise came from. I expected to find a carcass. Blood, drag marks. Instead, I found fur. Tufts of it, long and gray. Looked like it could have been from a coyote or maybe a wolf. But there was no blood, no bones, no signs of struggle, just the fur and what looked like a circle of flattened grass and dirt. Like something big had been sitting there, watching. I left early. Didn't finish my cam check. Didn't eat breakfast. Hiked 7 miles without a break and didn't stop until I had service. I tried reporting it. Not as anything supernatural. I'm not that guy. I just said I heard a weird kill and thought a pack might be in the area that needs monitoring. But here's the thing that won't let me go. When I got back and reviewed the trail cam footage from the ridge, the camera nearest my camp, the one maybe 200 yards from where I'd set up, went black at 3:13 a.m., not like it lost battery. It was full. It just stopped recording. The next file was from 5:56 a.m. when it randomly turned back on and caught me walking past it, looking over my shoulder like a paranoid lunatic. Nothing in between. The other 2 cams recorded fine all night. That was 5 days ago. I'm home now, safe, but something's wrong. I keep waking up at 3:13 a.m. sharp. Every night. I never look at the window. I don't want to see if anything's watching back. I might be done with field work for a while. If anyone's ever heard multiple eyes blink out one by one, or knows of any predator that chews through bone like it's trying to make a point, let me know, because I don't think that was an animal. I think it was something else, and I don't think I was supposed to hear it. I've been a backcountry ranger in Colorado for 7 years. I work a pretty large region with multiple trail systems, high alpine passes, and about 1,000 ways someone can get lost, fall, freeze, or worse. I've seen my share of weird stuff. Panicked calls from people who swore a bear walked on 2 legs. hikers hallucinating from dehydration, even a guy convinced the trees were breathing. But this is different. This one won't leave me alone. It started 3 weeks ago. I was manning the welcome station at the southern trailhead, handing out maps and giving the usual bear warnings. A guy mid-30s, bearded, sunburned, with that 1,000-yard hiker stare, approached me while I was restocking the first aid kits. He looked spooked, shaky, said he'd just come down from the Highline Loop after getting lost overnight. I asked if he needed help, medical or otherwise, and he said no. He was okay now, thanks to me. That's when things got weird. I hadn't seen him before. I hadn't been anywhere near the Highline Loop in days. But he smiled like we were old friends. You're the one who helped me, right? Last night, I was off the trail and twisted my ankle near some scree. Thought I was screwed. You found me, gave me water, and led me back to my tent. I told him I hadn't left the station since the day before. No patrols, no rescues, nothing logged. He blinked, confused. But it was a ranger. They had the uniform, the green jacket, the patch on the sleeve. Same hat you're wearing, just like yours. Then he paused. His smile slowly faded. Except there was something wrong with their face. I didn't say anything. Just waited while he tried to put it into words. It was like it was there, but it wasn't. No eyes, no mouth, just smooth. I didn't even notice until the hike back. I thought maybe it was a shadow or my eyes playing tricks. But I swear, man, it was like it didn't have a face. He left not long after, saying he was probably just overtired. I wrote the incident down in the shift log, half as a joke. Called it Phantom Ranger Sighting. Figured it'd make a good story at the end of season bonfire. But then, a few days later, someone else brought it up. Another hiker, woman in her 20s. She came into the northern station asking if we ever had volunteer rangers working at night. I asked what she meant. She said she'd gotten turned around 2 a.m. hiking down from Boulder Ridge and thought she was going to have to wait for daylight. But then she saw a ranger walking up the trail. No light, no radio, just walking straight toward her. She flagged them down, asked for help, and said the ranger never spoke, just pointed a direction and kept walking. She followed for maybe 10 minutes until she saw the trailhead again. I asked what the ranger looked like. Her face went pale. I didn't really see their face. I thought it was a headlamp glare at first, but it was just blank, like a mannequin. At this point, my stomach dropped. I checked the logs again. No one on duty in that zone. I even checked nearby ranger stations to see if anyone was working off schedule. Nothing. Just like before, I brought it up at our next meeting. joked about some idiot cosplaying as a faceless ranger and creeping out hikers. No one laughed, because I wasn't the only one hearing about it. Another ranger, Rick, said a hiker had thanked him for guiding them away from a landslide area. Rick had been home, sick, with a sinus infection that day. Another girl on our team, Kayla, found her patrol jacket folded neatly on her cot one morning with dried mud on the sleeves. She swore she hadn't worn it in days. Still, we didn't make a big deal. Weird stuff happens. People hallucinate. Memories get fuzzy in the dark. Until last week, I was up in the fire lookout tower on overnight watch. Not a bad gig. Quiet, peaceful. The kind of shift where you brew too much coffee and pretend to write that novel you always talk about. It was around 2:30 a.m. when I heard footsteps at the base of the tower. That's not normal. We don't get visitors that late. And even if someone was on patrol, they'd radio up first. I grabbed my flashlight and opened the hatch to look down. There was someone standing there, wearing the uniform. Same green jacket, same brown pants, same wide-brimmed ranger hat. No radio, no flashlight, just standing, looking up at me. I called out, "You okay down there?" No answer. They raised a hand like a wave, but didn't move otherwise. That's when my light hit their face, and I swear on every pine needle in that damn forest, there was nothing there. No eyes, no nose, no mouth, just smooth, pale skin, like a wax model left half-finished. I slammed the hatch shut and locked it, called it in on the radio. Dispatch said no one was scheduled for that area. No active patrols. Closest ranger was 8 miles south. When I opened the hatch again 15 minutes later, they were gone. No footprint, NTS in the dirt. No sign anyone had ever been there. The next morning, I checked my duffel. My spare uniform, the one I keep folded in a sealed bag, was missing the jacket. I filed a report. They're calling it a prank, or some rogue volunteer who got a hold of old gear. But I've been here long enough to know when the higher-ups are just trying to shut something down before it spreads. So now I'm telling you, if you're ever out in the woods and a ranger approaches you at night, no radio, no flashlight, just standing real still, don't follow them. Don't talk to them. Don't let them get too close. Check their face. If there's nothing there, it's not one of us. And if it's wearing my jacket, I want it back. I've done seasonal ranger work for years, Wyoming, Oregon, Montana. But this is my first season in Utah's high desert backcountry. I was brought in to help decommission old fire towers and clean up long-abandoned outposts from the 50s and 60s. Basically, glorified janitor work with better views and fewer people. That's what I liked about it. This happened last week, and I haven't slept a full night since. They sent me solo to Station K-23, one of the oldest towers in the district, tucked way back off a maintenance road that's barely drivable with a 4x4. It hadn't been staffed since sometime in the 80s. The guy who hiked me and said no one really wanted that shift when it was active. Supposedly, it had a bad radio line and sat on some weird fault line that made the compass spin in circles. Whatever. Old tech has quirks. I wasn't there to babysit ghosts. I arrived late afternoon. The station creaked and groaned, dust everywhere. Broken glass in the sink, rat droppings on the stove. I spent most of the day hauling out moldy bedding and scrubbing down surfaces while a storm brewed out east. Then I found the logbook. It was in the bottom drawer of the desk, under a bunch of old radio parts and rusted utensils. A brown leather-bound thing, stiff with age and warped from moisture. I opened it, expecting dull entries, firewatch data, equipment checks, weather reports. And that's mostly what I got. Wind 12 miles per hour from northwest. Zero visibility past East Ridge. Report of smoke near Timberline Ridge. False alarm. That kind of stuff. The entries ran from 1963 to 1967. Always signed by the same initials. JT. Then came the last entry. The handwriting was messier, rushed. The ink had bled a little from water damage, but I could still make it out. Storm rolling in, barometer crashing. The pressure makes them bolder. They only come during storms. Don't open the door, no matter what it sounds like. It's never really a voice. And that was it. The next page had been ripped out, jagged at the spine. And weirdest of all, the chair at the desk, the one I'd definitely not sat in, was still warm. Like someone had just stood up. I stood there for a long minute, the hair on my arms rising. I even pressed my palm to the seat, still faintly warm. I told myself maybe it had absorbed heat from the sun earlier or something. I'd opened the blinds, after all. It's not like I saw anyone. The storm hit just after sunset. Utah storms roll in fast and heavy wind slamming into the walls, dry lightning cracking the dark sky. I had a fire going in the old potbelly stove, and I curled up on the cot, trying to ignore the wind rattling the windows. Then came the knock. 3 slow taps. Knock, knock, knock. At the door, I froze. The door was locked. I was alone. No vehicles for miles. No trails. No other rangers scheduled for the week. I sat up slowly. The wind howled outside, but the knock had been clear. Deliberate. Not wind, not branches. Another knock. Louder this time. 4 quick raps. Knock, 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 knock. I stood, heart hammering, and moved toward the door. I didn't open it, thank God, but I called out, "Hello? Who's there?" No response, just the wind. Then a voice, my mom's voice. "Brent, sweetie, open the door. It's cold out here." I stumbled back like I'd been punched. My mom's been dead for 4 years. Cancer, peaceful. But there was no mistaking her voice. Gentle, soft, like she used to sound when she'd wake me up for school. I didn't answer. I backed into the corner near the stove, hand on my knife, as if that would help. Then came another voice. My dad. "Son, it's your father. You okay in there?" Then more, all at once. My old boss calling my name. My high school girlfriend crying. A ranger I used to work with in Yellowstone who died in a fall last summer. All of them, one after the other, begging me to open the door. Sometimes it sounded like they were right outside. Other times, far away. But what made me almost piss myself was when my own voice called out, "Brent, you locked the door on me, man. Let me in. It's pouring." It was perfect. Like someone had recorded me and played it back. I don't know how long it lasted. Hours, maybe. I curled up on the cot, ears covered, humming to drown it out. The voices didn't stop. Some of them whispered. Some screamed. Around 3 a.m., everything just stopped. Silence. When I finally got the courage to approach the door at dawn, I found 3 long gouges in the wood, like something had scraped down it with claws. There were no footprints, no animal signs, just scorched earth outside, like lightning had struck too close. I packed up and radioed for pickup early. Said the storm did some damage, and I wasn't comfortable staying another night. The dispatcher didn't argue. Before I left, I snapped a photo of the logbook page. I tried showing it to my supervisor, but he brushed it off. "That whole area's full of ghost stories," he said. "You spend enough nights in those old towers, the isolation messes with your head." Maybe JT knew exactly what he was talking about. I Googled the station when I got home. K23. Almost nothing came up, but I did find one forum post from 2009 by a hiker who said he camped near the ridge there during a storm. Said he heard voices in the dark, people calling for help that vanished when he went looking. He never camped solo again. I don't know what's up there, but I believe the logbook. If you ever find yourself deep in the backcountry during a storm, especially near an old fire tower, and you hear someone knock, don't answer, don't speak, because it might sound like someone you love, but it's never really a voice. And if you open the door, you might not be the one who walks back out. This isn't the first weird thing I've seen out in the woods, but it's definitely the first time I've seriously considered quitting my job over it. I work trail maintenance and inspection for a small regional park in southern Pennsylvania. We're not talking Yellowstone-level traffic or wilderness, just a few dozen miles of forested paths that wind through old colonial farmland, now mostly reclaimed by nature. Deer, coyotes, the occasional black bear, a couple old stone ruins, and some creepy trees that kids dare each other to take selfies in front of. You get the vibe. This happened last Saturday morning. I was out walking Trail 5, one of the longer perimeter loops that doesn't get much foot traffic outside of summer. It's got some elevation changes, old growth forest, and enough distance from the road to make it feel really remote, especially when you're alone. The weather was chilly but clear. I had headphones and just one earbud. I'm not an idiot. And I was doing some light clearing as I went, small branches, trail erosion notes, nothing major. Around mile 3, I got that weird sense that something was off. You know that feeling, like someone's watching you. It was subtle, but enough to make me stop and look around. That's when I saw him, a figure walking toward me from the opposite direction, maybe 200 feet ahead. He was moving slow, real slow, like Sunday stroll slow. I paused, took out my earbud. My first thought was that he was just some old dude out for a morning walk, maybe someone I'd missed on the counter logs at the station. But the closer he got, the more I realized something wasn't right. He was wearing clothes that looked old. Not just outdated, old, like 1800s old. High-waisted trousers, suspenders, a collared shirt with sleeves buttoned tight at the wrist, and a wide-brimmed hat, like an Amish-style one, but dirtier, sun-faded, and worn at the edges. That would have been odd enough, but it was his face that stopped me cold. He was smiling. Not just politely, not like a hey fellow hiker smile. This was a huge, too wide grin that stretched way too far across his face. It looked painful. His teeth were visible from 30 feet away, all of them perfectly straight and too white, like fake movie prop teeth. His eyes never blinked, just fixed on me as he walked, smiling like someone told him if he stopped, he'd die. Something primal in me said, "Don't let him get closer." I pretended to check my phone, trying to act casual while internally screaming. He was still walking toward me, same slow, steady pace, eyes locked to mine. That impossible smile frozen in place. We were maybe 40 feet apart now. I cleared my throat and said, "Morning." He didn't respond, didn't wave, didn't slow down or speed up, just smiled. Now listen, I've dealt with plenty of weirdos in this job. Off-the-grid types, tweakers, people tripping balls on mushrooms. But this guy, this was different. He didn't seem drunk or high. He didn't even seem human. He passed under a shaft of morning light through the trees, and I swear to God, his clothes didn't cast a shadow. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, looked again. Still no shadow. Just that grin, that horrible, stretched too far grin. I turned and started walking back the way I came. Not running, just walking fast, trying not to panic. Every instinct told me not to turn my back, but staying felt worse. Like if he got too close, that smile would split open into something worse. I went maybe 50 yards before I glanced over my shoulder. He was still coming. Same pace, same grin. Except now, he was walking faster. I picked up speed. Didn't run. Not yet. I didn't want to trip or fall and give him a reason to catch up. But then I heard it. A snap behind me, like a branch breaking. Then another. Footsteps. Fast ones. I ran. I'm not a sprinter, but adrenaline is a hell of a drug. I booked it for at least a quarter mile, not daring to look back, the trail blurring under my boots. All I could hear was my own breathing and the thud of my boots. And then, just as suddenly as it started, nothing. No footsteps behind me. No snapping branches. Just the quiet chirp of birds and wind in the leaves. I stopped, chest heaving, and finally turned around. The trail was empty. No sign of him. No noise. No movement. I waited a few minutes, eyes darting everywhere, before pulling out my radio and calling in. Told my boss I'd heard a big cat lie and was heading back early for safety reasons. He didn't question it. Back at the station, I checked the trail cam we keep near mile 3. Motion activated wide angle. It had been triggered about 30 minutes before I passed that spot. I loaded the footage. There I was, walking up the trail, stopping, looking around. Then nothing. No one else on camera. No figure approaching. Just me, looking scared and confused, and then hurrying off. I've watched that footage at least 10 times. I know what I saw. I know he was there. But the came. Raw caught nothing. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that grin. On Sunday, I called out sick and spent the day reading old park logs, trying to convince myself it was a hallucination or a prank. But buried in a 1986 maintenance log, I found this line. Saw an unidentified male near Trail 5 again. Same clothes as last summer. Wouldn't respond to hails. Smiled too much. Recommend posting a sign. They never did. I don't know what I saw, or what it wanted, or why it was smiling like that, but I requested reassignment the next day. I'll take trash duty near the picnic grounds over Trail 5 any day. And if you ever find yourself hiking and see someone walking toward you in clothes that don't fit the century, Don't wait for them to speak. Don't get close. Just turn around and don't look back.